Thanks to the grace of heaven and the virtue of our teachers, thanks to the compassion from above, I, as a humble learner, have the opportunity to share and discuss with all of you in this lesson. This lesson is about cultivation, cultivating the heart, where our intentions and thoughts rest in utmost goodness and purity. Dear virtuous friends, what then is the purest heart? We see the innocent heart of a child. Children sometimes quarrel while playing, but after the quarrel, they become good friends again. However, we adults are different. Sometimes, a small misunderstanding or miscommunication can lead to lifelong enmity. Relationships that were once close friendships, or even familial ties, may fall apart due to a single small misunderstanding. But why don't children act like us adults? Logically speaking, adults should be more sensible, understanding, and reasonable than children, yet we often create misunderstandings over trivial matters. This is because children have less contamination, their innocent hearts are not influenced by external things. Therefore, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that through cultivation and refining our hearts, how can we achieve a pure heart? It is by ensuring that every thought and intention rests in utmost goodness, returning to the heart we had before any thought arises, the heart that remains in utmost goodness and purity before thoughts begin. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 2. Self-awareness and self-discipline in thoughts lead to a guilt-free conscience. Dear virtuous friends, in our conduct and interactions, how can we be without shame before heaven and without guilt before the earth, achieving a clear conscience in all our dealings with people and matters? The compassionate immortals and Buddhas tell us that only by ensuring every thought and intention is marked by self-awareness and self-discipline can we achieve this. When every thought we have is guided by self-awareness and self-discipline, naturally, our actions and conduct will allow us to have a clear conscience. Dear virtuous friends, there's no need to overthink. As long as every thought and intention is self-aware and disciplined, we can naturally be without guilt. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 3. Steadfast cultivation in life is most precious. Dear virtuous friends, there is a saying in Minnan, one's character is within, but reputation spreads outside. A person may be at home, but their reputation travels abroad. Dear virtuous friends, in our daily lives, how can we be steadfast? In our conduct, what is most precious? Steadfastness is most precious. Because while you are within, your reputation naturally spreads outward. So, how can we ensure that what spreads is a good reputation? It comes through steadfast cultivation and honest living, what we call being down to earth. When we conduct ourselves with steadfastness, such a person is most precious. In every matter of life, though they move slowly with a down-to-earth approach, every step they take is steady and firm. When each step is steady and firm, you may not move quickly, but even in that slowness, you can achieve far-reaching effects. Dear virtuous friends, therefore, in life, we must cultivate steadfastly, live honestly, and handle matters with sincerity. Steadfastness in conduct is most precious. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 4. selfless dedication in life is the epitome of truth, goodness, and beauty. Dear virtuous friends, every one of us hopes to pursue a life of truth, goodness, and beauty. So, how can we achieve true truth, goodness, and beauty in our lives? Truth, goodness, and beauty represent the ultimate goal of life's pursuit, authentic, virtuous, and beautiful, without any flaws. But how can we attain this? The compassionate immortals and Buddhas tell us that it is through selfless dedication, meaning every act of giving is free of selfish motives or desires. When you give with a pure and selfless heart, dear virtuous friends, your life embodies the essence of truth, goodness, and beauty. Imagine if your giving comes with expectations or desires for gain, hoping to earn fame or expecting rewards from your efforts. When such selfish thoughts arise, this kind of giving cannot achieve true truth, goodness, and beauty. Only through selfless dedication, like helping others attain enlightenment, can we truly embody this ideal. In guiding others to enlightenment, we may need to invest great effort, energy, and even financial resources. When we give without any selfish motives, offering complete dedication, this manifests in our lives just as it does in the revered saints, sages, immortals, and Buddhas we admire today. They practiced selfless dedication, and thus, they became saints, sages, immortals, and Buddhas, achieving the ultimate expression of truth, goodness, and beauty. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 5. Maintaining the original aspiration in giving and receiving brings the greatest joy. Dear virtuous friends, every one of us hopes to have a joyful heart and be truly happy. However, in reality, we face a complex, turbulent, and rapidly changing society. With so much happening on the internet nowadays, sometimes we find it hard to smile. So, the compassionate heaven teaches us, how can we attain true joy? True joy, dear virtuous friends, comes from not wavering from our original aspiration. As the saying goes, cultivate the way as if it were your first day, and with a sincere heart, there will always be abundance. When you hold fast to your original aspiration, you are the most joyful. Especially in our acts of giving, when you give, in the process of giving and receiving, you naturally receive. Because in your giving, you remain true to your original aspiration, the same aspiration you had when you first entered the temple, the heart that made great vows of kindness, the heart that wished to guide all beings to enlightenment. If you can maintain that initial aspiration and continue to give, you will naturally continue to receive. For we see that, because of your giving, sentient beings are uplifted one by one, progressing through advanced courses. When they face problems, difficulties, or setbacks, they can resolve them with ease. Seeing them overcome hardships and attain joy, moving forward with the bliss of the Dharma, this is what the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us. Maintaining the original aspiration in giving and receiving brings the greatest joy. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 6. A clear goal in moving forward brings the greatest brilliance. Dear virtuous friends, from the day we are born, every one of us is moving toward death. No one is exempt. Thus, Life is a one-way journey, and we are advancing every day. Dear virtuous friends, as you move forward, where is your goal? Are you chasing fame and fortune, or are you pursuing the path of the immortals and Buddhas, leaving a legacy in heaven and eternity in the human world? Even if you were to possess the greatest authority or wealth in the world, like the emperors in history, what then? Those emperors held the greatest power, their words were sacred edicts, the land was theirs, and the beauties belonged to them. So many people fought for that position back then. But even if you attain such a position, what comes next? The saints, sages, immortals, and Buddhas we admire today are not emperors. The ones we revere and worship, when they lived as humans, did not necessarily have the greatest authority or wealth. Yet their goals were crystal clear, for they had the definite aim of guiding sentient beings to enlightenment. Thus, in their forward journey, they could shine with the greatest brilliance. Therefore, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that when you move forward with a clear goal, you achieve the greatest brilliance. So, dear virtuous friends, after seeking the way and awakening wisdom, we set new aspirations. Before, we had many worldly thoughts like ordinary people. But after seeking the way and awakening wisdom, we learn from the spirit of the saints, sages, immortals, and Buddhas, emulating their spirit. We, too, set clear goals and move forward steadfastly, naturally resolving all challenges. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 7. Gratitude for divine arrangements in cultivation leads to the ultimate state of non-action. Dear virtuous friends, in the process of cultivating the way, we give thanks for the grace of heaven and the virtue of our teachers, and we are grateful for the compassionate arrangements of heaven. We trust in heaven's arrangements. Everything we have now, as long as we walk the path of learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, is undoubtedly heaven's best arrangement. In other words, everything you have now, if you are walking the path of learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, is heaven's best arrangement. Thus, in cultivating the way, gratitude for divine arrangements leads to the ultimate state of non-action. Many people exhaust their minds, scheming and calculating, thinking that such calculations are the most cost-effective, like a businessman who says, if I invest this way, with minimal effort, I can gain a lot, this has the highest return on investment. Dear virtuous friends, worldly businessmen may think this way, but for those of us walking the path of cultivation and practice, we entrust everything to heaven's best arrangements. Why do we practice non-action? Because we do not engage in the relentless pursuit or petty calculations of worldly people. As the saying goes, human calculations are inferior to heaven's calculations. Humans may be skilled at scheming, but heaven is far wiser. Dear virtuous friends, therefore, we entrust everything to heaven's best arrangements. Thus, in cultivating the way, gratitude for divine arrangements leads to the ultimate state of non-action. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 8. Following the Master's guidance in practicing the way leads to ultimate fulfillment. Dear virtuous friends, in practicing the way, Facing the great responsibility of guiding all beings to salvation, our teacher Jigong and our master and mistress have said they had no prior experience and had never undertaken such a grand task. So what did they do? They followed the mandate of heaven. Our master and mistress obeyed the instructions of the patriarch, and in doing so, following the master's guidance and practicing the way was the most natural and aligned with the middle way. Dear virtuous friends, we are the same. We lack experience, but after entering the temple, we continuously attend advanced courses, keep learning, and grow. We listen to the guidance from above, follow our master's instructions in practicing the way, and by honoring the master and following their guidance, our efforts naturally lead to ultimate fulfillment. After all, those above have experience and passed down their wisdom to us, allowing us to avoid many detours. Dear virtuous friends, therefore, in cultivation, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that following the Master's guidance in practicing the way leads to ultimate fulfillment. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 9. A heart as vast as the sea can embrace all rivers, thus a gentleman cultivates boundless virtue. Dear virtuous friends, we all hope to achieve something great, but how do we achieve it? The compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that to achieve greatness, we must be like the sea, embracing all rivers. Dear virtuous friends, the sea, with its humility and vastness, can accommodate all rivers and thus becomes great. Similarly, we must emulate the sea, making our hearts infinitely vast. When your heart is as vast as the sea, you can naturally embrace all rivers. Dear virtuous friends, therefore, a gentleman must cultivate boundless virtue. Conversely, when you are magnanimous, your virtue grows profound. When your virtue is profound, it reveals that you are indeed a person of great capacity, a person with a heart as vast as the sea, capable of embracing all rivers. Thus, dear virtuous friends, in our cultivation, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that we must continually expand our hearts. As the saying goes, a prime minister's heart can hold a ship. When your heart is as vast as the sea, you can naturally embrace everything. By embracing all, you allow your virtue to grow ever deeper, naturally enabling you to bear all things. With profound virtue, you can achieve everything. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 10. A meticulous mind that grasps subtle truths leads to perfection, thus a gentleman achieves through virtue. Dear virtuous friends, perfection is what everyone dreams of. Whether it is personal fulfillment, societal harmony, or family completeness, achieving perfection in any realm is the aspiration of every person. But how do we attain it? The compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that our minds must be meticulous, and we must have a clear and profound understanding of the truth. As the saying goes, the truth lies in the subtle details. When we have a clear understanding of the truth and our minds are meticulous, we can naturally achieve perfection. Thus, a gentleman establishes himself to uplift others and achieves for himself to help others achieve. Dear virtuous friends, in our cultivation, we harbor no discriminatory thoughts toward the truth, for the truth pervades heaven and earth, yet it is profoundly subtle. In these subtle details, only with a meticulous mind can you observe deeply and attain perfection. Therefore, we must strive to establish ourselves to uplift others and achieve for ourselves to help others achieve, in order to reach perfection. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 11. Cultivating discipline, concentration, and wisdom removes ignorance and mediocrity, thus a gentleman is grateful and nurtures virtue. Dear virtuous friends, as we walk the path of cultivation and practice, having attained the way, we are meant to apply it. Where do we apply it? In our workplaces, in our families, in society, and in our daily lives. By doing so, we can achieve discipline, concentration, and wisdom. Dear virtuous friends, don't the immortals and Buddhas teach us this? When you possess discipline, concentration, and wisdom, you can gradually eliminate desires. Thus, as gentlemen, we constantly give thanks for the grace of heaven and the virtue of our teachers. In our gratitude, we continually nurture virtue, allowing ourselves to progress and grow. Dear virtuous friends, every word in our teachings is a spark of wisdom from the saints, sages, immortals, and Buddhas. Though we speak these truths in the temple, they can be applied to our daily lives, our workplaces, and our interactions in the world. By continuously engaging in learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, we rid ourselves of restlessness and refine our true essence, naturally allowing a single lamp to dispel 1,000 years of darkness. Therefore, in our continuous journey of learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, we must be grateful and nurture virtue. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. A compassionate mind can dissolve violence, thus a gentleman resolves grievances and manifests virtue. Dear virtuous friends, compassion brings joy to others and relieves their suffering. We emulate the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, often speaking of compassion. In today's society, filled with violence, why is this so? Because we have lost our compassionate hearts. Therefore, we must cultivate a compassionate mind to naturally dissolve the air of violence. As gentlemen, dear virtuous friends, a true gentleman responds to grievances with virtue. Honestly, in today's society, people refuse to yield, each believing they are in the right. When they think they are right, they want to take more than their share. When they think they are right, they refuse to forgive. This is the state of society today. But as we walk the path of learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, how do we avoid conflict? To dissolve violence, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that with a compassionate mind, your heart can give rise to compassion, and you can respond to grievances with virtue. Even if we suffer a loss today, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas tell us that taking a loss is gaining an advantage. Thus, as gentlemen, in resolving grievances, we naturally manifest virtue. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 13. A good heart leads to a good fate and eliminates karmic obstacles, thus a gentleman accumulates merit and virtue. Dear virtuous friends, how can you make your fate good? Some people, to improve their fate, study divination, fortune-telling, or numerology, or examine the feng shui of their homes or ancestral graves. They seek methods in these practices to improve their fate. However, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas teach us that if you want to improve your fate, the simplest way is to first make your heart good. When your heart is good, dear virtuous friends, your fate naturally follows suit. Thus, the compassionate immortals and Buddhas tell us that a good heart leads to a good fate, naturally eliminating karmic obstacles. Because your heart is good, your fate naturally improves. Even if you cannot feel it now, over time, your fate will transform. In the goodness of your heart, you subtly accumulate many positive karmic connections. There is a Manon saying, "Dragons befriend dragons, phoenixes befriend phoenixes, and the crooked associate with the foolish." In simple terms, it means, do not commit small evils, and do not neglect small acts of goodness. In Manon, it is said, if you are a dragon, your friends will also be dragons. If you are a phoenix, your friends will also be phoenixes. Thus, when your heart is good, you will subtly feel the support of positive karmic connections, and your fate will naturally improve. In the process of dissolving karma, you can continually accumulate merit and virtue. Therefore, dear virtuous friends, cultivate the way by refining the heart, and practice the way with utmost sincerity. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 14. A compassionate heart can guide sentient beings, thus a gentleman devotes himself to embracing virtue. Dear virtuous friends, with a compassionate heart, you naturally cannot bear to see sentient beings suffer. When you see your own children in pain, you feel reluctant to let them suffer. So, if you can treat all sentient beings as your own children, with a heart of universal compassion, you will naturally give rise to a compassionate heart, unable to bear their suffering. Thus, as a gentleman, in devoting himself, he embraces virtue, constantly inspiring those with affinity. Moreover, as gentlemen, we lead by example. In leading by example, we can give rise to compassion, guide sentient beings with affinity, and inspire them to join us in walking the path of learning, cultivating, teaching, and practicing, moving from the sea of suffering to the other shore, from this shore to the other shore, achieving the compassionate salvation of heaven and establishing the Lotus Kingdom. Dear virtuous friends, this is the gentleman who devotes himself to embracing virtue, giving rise to compassion to guide sentient beings. Let us return to the main text and continue our exploration. 15. A heart filled with love fosters positive connections, thus a gentleman spreads virtue across the four seas. Dear virtuous friends, when your heart is filled with love, you naturally form positive connections everywhere. Right now, as you can see, in our online courses, there are sentient beings with affinity from several countries. In different nations, we come together to listen to the compassionate teachings of the immortals and Buddhas. Thus, in forming positive connections, we spread the grace and compassion of heaven. Why? Because our hearts are filled with love. In having love in our hearts, we form positive connections. We hope that more sentient beings with affinity, hand in hand and heart to heart, will spread virtue across the four seas, guiding those with affinity. Dear virtuous friends, cultivation is about refining the heart. When you cultivate, you are refining your heart. Thus, cultivation is about manifesting the love in our hearts. When you have love, you naturally guide sentient beings according to their conditions and opportunities. Wherever there are sentient beings, we go to guide them. Thus, a gentleman spreads virtue across the 4 seas because his heart is filled with love. Blessings to you.